Good morning, everybody. This is Kevin from Local Fat. It is Sunday morning, Memorial Day morning. Well, day before Memorial Day, right?
And we had a lot of interest to learn about scones.
Scones.
And how you do
Scones, magical fruit. Yeah, something different. But anyway, scones. There's a lot of different ways of doing scones. There's a really old school way. There's the new school way. You guys hear me talk all the time. Here's my situation. My situation is a lot of times when people are doing these things, the recipes are a little complicated and people don't quite hit the mark, and then their finished product is less than, and then what ends up happening is they're like, well, that's crap and I'll never do that again. So, KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. This is kind of how I live my life, and I think with regards to scones, yeah, okay. Here's the one thing you just have to put in the back of your mind. Flour, as an example, when moistened and added, and moisture is added, being water or whatnot, and the flour is worked, gluten is formed. Gluten, think of it like little elastic bands. There's a handful of things that cut gluten and inhibit it from forming too strongly. One of those things, which we're dealing with today, is fat. So in this case, scones. We are doing flour right here. We're going to do some sugar, heavy whipping cream, because this is your fat. This is the thing that's going to help you make more tender scones versus more hockey puck scones, if you know what I mean.
So are you doing ratios again?
Yeah. We're going to go over that. Salt, a little baking powder, and vanilla. Okay? Oh, and then flavoring of some kind. The vanilla is a flavor, but not really. The thing about the flavoring today is it's kind of interesting. It's actually a Cavada product. It's one of the products that we produce, and it is made from Driscoll raspberries. So here's the thing. When you're baking and you want to add produce, vegetables, fruit, whatever, to your bread or your batter or your dough or whatever the case may be, it gets a little complicated when you're adding fresh products, because those fresh products all have water, and when you bake it, if you didn't really account for the amount of water that's, for instance, in raspberries, when you bake it, that water is going to come out into your dough. You're going to pick it up, you're going to crumble it, and the raspberry will fall out, and there will be this pocket around it. So we don't want that. We want to use
dried fruit.
This is why everybody always uses dried fruit. But dried fruit sucks. I'm sorry. Wait, did I say that on camera? Anyway, it just does. When you cook fruit, and the dehydration process, in essence, is cooking it, everything changes. So this is where the Cavada product comes in, because what we're doing is we've got a different kind of technology that's a hybrid that is not cooking it.
It's your secret sauce.
It's my secret sauce.
That you've been working on.
For a year, well, a couple years now, full on. So anyway, Driscoll raspberries, and what I've done is, you might want to check this out. So I don't know if you guys can see this okay, but basically, these are the Driscoll raspberries.
Oh my God, they're massive.
Well, yeah, there's some that are and some that aren't, but this is the cool part, right? Is look, totally dry, right? Which means, and the flavor and the color is gorgeous. So we can just add these.
So let's just go a little deeper.
This one.
What mixture, what recipe on that?
Well, this one is raspberry, raspberries, fresh mint that we grow, and a little ginger, not very much. But so this mixture I can reduce to a powder or a larger coarse grind if I need, whatever the case may be. So for today, here's the deal. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to probably just kind of crumple these guys in here for now. If you don't have this kind of dried product, there are some freeze-dried products that you can buy out there. I'm not sure about the quality as much of those, but it's the same kind of textural sort of thing that you can do. You can buy that. If you don't have that bandwidth yet, and you're going to use dried fruit, and trust me, for years I used dried fruit, and it's totally fine, providing you do a couple steps first. Here's the deal. If you're going to use dried fruit, take your dried fruit. Let's zoom down here a little bit. Take your dried... She is so lovely. All right. Okay, if you're going to use dried fruit, it's got to go in here, okay? And ideally speaking, it's going to go in here at least 2 or 3 hours before, okay? And let it soak. So you're going to let it soak with your vanilla and all that other stuff. But anyway, I digressed. So here we go. Let's get this process started so you guys have a good idea. Super simple. We take a big bowl. Now, quantities. Let's talk about this because, as you know, I'm not a huge recipe per se guy. I'm more of a ratio guy. The number one thing you have to know about this is on your flour and your cream, it's basically just under equal amounts by weight, okay? And you'll see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cream and I'm going to add a couple teaspoons of vanilla, okay? That's done. Then I'm going to take the flour, which I've sifted. You always want to sift because who knows how old flour is anymore and all that kind of stuff. So I've added the flour, baking powder, which in this case is about 2 tablespoons, give or take. Some salt. Now, I use...
don't use iodine.
Yeah, we want to stay away from all that iodized crap. This stuff is a large, coarse grind, but for me, I prefer it because I don't like the salt so fine that it's so intense it's everywhere. When you use the coarser grind, you actually get this sort of in every bite, some salt, some not, which is kind of fun. All right, so we're going to do some salt. Now, sugar. Sugar, totally up to you. You don't even have to put it in there. But sugar, let's talk 2 things. One, flavor-wise, most people like sugar, right? So I get it. But at the same point in time, sugar is also going to, it's another one of those things that's a gluten inhibitor, right? So sugar will also aid us in not only giving us nice mouthfeel, it aids in structure of the dough, but it's also going to aid us in helping keep it a little bit more tender. So in this case, I've got about 2 pounds of flour, give or take here. I'm going to add, it's going to be the equivalent of about a cup. I mean, if I'm going to... Yeah, you can see how much. So 1, 2. That's about what I want. But it's whatever you want, right? So now we have our wet with, which is the fat, with some cream. I'm sorry. The fat being the cream with some vanilla. Thanks for helping me there, Chief. Way to go.
Yeah.
All right. And then we have the dry, which has been sifted. In this case, it's salt, flour, baking powder, and sugar. Yeah?
So,
yeah.
What if you wanted to do a gluten-free version?
You'd have to get a gluten-free flour.
Would it taste the same?
Of course not. But
What's your favorite
but we're coming a long way we're coming a long way with regards to gluten-free flours, right?
So what's your favorite?
I don't have a favorite.
What about
No, I don't, because here's the thing. Gluten-free flours are usually a mixture of a lot of other flours, right? They're going to be flours that will, I mean, you name it. There's everything from millet. I mean, you could just go on and on and on. What's making the gluten-free flours popular now is the blend of other types of flours that don't have gluten, that are non-wheat flours.
we have to try it?
Yeah, I have been trying it. Yeah. Oops. All right, so we digress. Let's go back. So come back down here a little bit. So here we go. We have the flour, we have our cream. Now, here comes the fun stuff. So I am going to take some of these guys, and I don't want them too small, but I want a good amount in here. Now keep in mind that this will change the color of our dough.
What if people wanted to get your raspberry dried mix?
Well, then they have to ping us, and we'll tell them how they're going to start having access to this stuff. And it will be on the markets really, really soon. All right, so we have everything mixed together. Now we're just gonna start adding our liquid. And all we're doing here is we're just gently adding liquid until this stuff starts to come together. It's pretty user-friendly, you guys. We don't need a ton of things. Now, it being tools and equipment and all this kind of stuff. Now, the amount that you need here is kind of important. And as you can see, I'm not really kneading it as much as I'm just squishing it together for a couple different reasons. For one, I don't want to manipulate too much of the color. I like the white against the red. And as you can see, we're going to use, we didn't even use all the cream. So check that out. There's about 3/4 cup of cream left. I'm not going to add it. Now here's the why I don't use recipes so much. Because this stuff changes all the time. As I've told you, it changes with the humidity outside, the amount of sun outside. So I don't think I need to say any more. Let's turn this thing out onto the table. And it may look like it's still pretty dry, but to my hands, it's really not. Okay. All we're going to do is squeeze this stuff together to make it more manageable. I'll break it into two. And as you can see, it's a dough, right? It's there. So once you get like this, don't start kneading the crap out of it. What you want to do is you want to just give it some gentle, constructive guidance. You know what I mean? All right, so here we go. So we are just going to use one hand as a guide, one hand as a little stamp or press. And when this bakes, it will approximately double in height. So all I'm going to do is make it these just over an inch, give or take.
You'll be needing a sheet pan, I take it.
I will be needing a sheet pan, please. Okay, so there's one. Now, I wish that I could tell you, guys, that I have one of these already done, but I don't. Because it's Sunday morning and I was sleeping, so just back off. But we will post some photos when they come out of the oven. Now here's where we're at. We have this. Once you have this, you can now let this sit. I would wrap it with a little plastic or whatever the case may be. Let it stand for at least an hour. You don't have to, but once again, we have created some gluten here and we wanted things to be relaxed before we kill them in the oven. You know what I mean? So I would let it stand. What I do most of the time is I do this the night before. And I'll wrap this up, put it in the fridge, done deal. In the morning, I come out. I will do the next step, which I'm about ready to show you. Throw it in your preheated oven. When I say preheated, I'm saying preheated at about 350-ish. And all you're going to do when these things are cut and thrown in the oven, you're going to cook them until they're golden brown on top, and they will feel light, considerably light. They'll probably be 70% lighter than when they were when you put them on the pan. I would love to tell you how long to put them in the oven. I don't know your oven. I don't know anything about it. So instead of that, let's just kind of engage the sensorial aspect of our cooking. And so visually, light golden brown, texturally, you're looking for something that is a little bit about 70% lighter. Are we clear? All right. So for the sake of showing you guys and removing us from the time element, let's do this. Okay, here we go. Let's show them the next stage. So remember that cream that we had left over? This is critical. When you're doing this, you want to, before you throw them in the oven, you want to brush your palm with a nice little brush. Oh, that feels so good. So you're going to take a little brush, and you're going to brush on a pretty good amount of fat, being cream.
The raspberries reconstituting?
They are reconstituting as we speak. I just had a little conversation with them. They said that things are looking good. Okay, so we're going to put some fat on here. Now, yes, you can use an egg wash if you like, but it's going to change the color and it's going to change the texture a little bit.
There are no eggs in there now.
There is no eggs in here, right? So once we do this,
If you're dairy-free, you can use a different...
yeah, absolutely. You can actually use coconut milk is really nice.
Yeah.
If you don't like coconut, you can always use almond milk. Anything that's got a little fat, and the nut milks have a lot of fat in them, so they're totally fine. Sounds like we've got some construction going on. So once we have labeled this or dusted this with some cream, we're going to take some sugar, and we're going to spread some more sugar. And the reason for this is this cream and sugar will caramelize when it's baking. Okay? So all we have left to do now is let this wait. We'll cut it into pie shapes. Each one of these I'll probably cut into 8 or 10 at least. 350-degree oven, light golden brown, really light to the weight. Raspberry, mint, little ginger, awesome flavors. This is going to be a great thing for either this morning or tomorrow morning for sure. If it's going to be for tomorrow, make them today. It's super easy. If you guys have any...
Leave that in the refrigerator.
Yeah, and just let it sit.
Okay.
Now, one last note. I have made this and left it in my fridge for up to 4 or 5 days at a time, and it's been great. So it's pretty forgiving, right? Try it out. Let me know what you think. I hope it works well for you. If you have any questions, let us know. Other than that, happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
And
Be nice to each other and stay home.
stay home. Be good. Cheers.